let me go and show you what I've cobbled together on Sunday. It's something I've been really proud of. And since we've been playing the game, it's this little guy, of course, from none other than Silent Hill. Isn't that cool? This is what I've made from 2 Genesis 9 figures. And I thought I want to show you how this thing moves and works. I think this is the promo pose that I've made there already. But really, this guy is made up of 2 Genesis figures, a bottom here and a top. So they're independently controlled. If I go over to the Power Pose tab, I can go and control the top thing here. That is quite nice. There used to be a proper Power Pose template, but I guess it's no longer here. I've noticed this as well. We can also go and rotate. Can we rotate? Yeah, the template isn't correct. I don't know why this hasn't loaded properly. I think the bottom guy, I can totally click and then go, do we have the puppeteer preset? Yes. Perfect. So under preview, I can go and move this guy around, which is kind of cool. And it was a lot of fun to do this. And Brian, of course, I was inspired by what you did with Blender and Character Creator. But yeah, if I go and animate this is going to look really cool. So I'm excited about this. Disabled American veteran. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. And then, little guy can go lunge forward and attack people, or also, kneel down. So that's also possible, all the while moving the arms at the top there. So very, very cool. Lunge forward with one leg, lunge forward with another. So very exciting stuff. And so the way I've made this happen is that if I go and make the top Genesis figure invisible, the bottom one, aside from it wearing high heels now, this is just an afterthought that I've added there. This was gray, of course, so there was no textures on this. And with the wire texture shaded mode here, I could go and see, and also without the red background, I could see where I needed to separate the figure. So they're not exactly identical, but this one is basically mostly the Genesis 9 female part. And the top one, if I go and make this invisible, make the top one visible, that is just another Genesis figure that has been turned over. And what I didn't think of, I just turned it 180 degrees upside down. What I at first didn't quite think of is that here's of course the behind. At first, when I turned this around, it looked like this, bottom sticking in our face, and that sort of crease, we don't want to see that. So I've smoothed that out with ZBrush, and turned that into something slightly slimmer that looked like a deformed upper body. And then, in order to make these guys fit together, I had to make a fit morph also with ZBrush, so that there's a sort of a seamless edge here, and that's what that fit morph is for. So that then became this. So that was all a ZBrush job. But then, of course, it was all about the textures. And for reference, by the way, there's something that I've found on the internet by this guy, which wasn't actually called Lycoris Thorn. You find him on the Sketchfab. I'll go and link to this here. If you wanted to have a look at this, he basically ripped these models from the Silent Hill remake, and this is a 3D viewer, so you can go and zoom in really closely and see what else is happening here with the textures and just have a look at it. I didn't know they had tubes sticking out, and some other models had bandages and all. So very, very interesting. So this was a great reference that I just had on my other monitor. I just looked at it and examined what would the textures need to look like. So then, in Substance Painter, this was a kind of an interesting way of building this up. I exported this guy out. First of all, merged all the textures together so that I had one UDIM in Blender. And that was, otherwise it would have been like 8-10 UDIM tiles. And removed the pieces of geometry that I didn't need, like the 2 upper bodies and the feet and the shins and everything. And then merged everything together onto one UDIM tile. And then I started building this up. So let me go and take all these bits off, and then I can show you how I did that. So all of these things made invisible looked, of course, like this. So I started with a base skin shader here that looked just like basic skin, also with no material. So this thing has got one material zone. This is nothing, and then this is the skin shader that came from the Substance Starter Essentials. And I just made the skin color a little bit brighter, and I think I adjusted the tiling of the normals because that was a bit too big. So I did that. Then I made the outfit, and the outfit was just essentially a paint job in which I painted this mask here. I painted that out with some height information. So it's just a single paint layer in here. And the cool thing about this is literally the material. So that worked quite well. And then on the outsides here, I made, this is another material that I literally painted in with a path, or with two paths basically. This one was a mirrored path, and it's got a little bit of height information in there, which is why it looks like it's slightly indented. So that's not sculpted, that's just normal detail. And the top one is the same thing. So that's just the path feature in Substance Painter. That was the outfit. And then I thought I'm going to put some blood splatter on the figure, and that was done mainly with a generator. So brush, sponge, dent, that was actually fill. And then I added a blur layer to that, and then I added some paint strokes to that. So this is what that looked like in the for the originally, which was, you know, a little too much. So then I added a blur to that, so that looked like this. But again, you can see a ton of repetition there. So then I added a paint layer and just painted some of these things out, and then that became the bruises here. Adjusted the opacity of that a little bit. Then we go and have a look at the blood stains. So that's another thing I've painted in. Blood stains on and off. So these are things that I just painted in here with stencils, so that we have things that look a little bit like what the reference looks like. So it was a lot of fun to do that, I have to say. I really got into Substance Painter on that occasion. Then I blackened the feet. So they were made black mainly with a brush, and I think a bit of a, no, that was just a brush. So that was just, I think that was just a brush here. Was it? Let's have a look. Brush and a little bit of foot detail, so a little bit of just, you know, painting things in so that it looks, you know, like that. So quite cool. Then the caps here on the end, those are from the XI Mannequin. I actually redid these and made them flat in a second iteration, which I don't have here. But those are just metal caps, and that's that. There's one thing I believe that comes after this, which is the dirty body. So I added some dirt on here, but the disadvantage of that was that it also added some bump detail onto the metal caps, which I didn't quite know how to rectify because I wanted them to be this smooth. And then I found the solution on the internet. You just have to fill just the height channel with basically non-height value, and then change that value from L dodge over to normal, and then that gets wiped out. So I think L dodge is the default. Is it? Because it isn't doing that now, but that would have been the bump detail. And at that point, oh, because I'm on base color, I need to be on the height channel. And that was from that, I think that was on linear dodge. Yeah, there we go. Then we've got it bumpy. And in order to wipe that out, we can change the height channel to normal blending mode. And then, you know, that makes that. And that gets us this little guy, and I'm really, really proud of him. Sadly, I won't be able to share them with you because it's one of those things that I had to do so much work on the Genesis figure that by the time I export this out, it's no longer compatible with Genesis, so it's not a morph or something that I could share with you. So it's one of those things. No Christmas freebie, I'm afraid. Yes, that's all I have really from the Mannequin. I hope you enjoyed it, and I thought, you know, this is nice. I wanted to share this with you and let him render a little bit, and then I'll show you what it looks like in iRay.